Whoop.
Hello and welcome back to the 14th episode of the Under the Umbrella podcast from the Big Green Umbrella Media Studio. I'm one of your hosts, Cody Williams, Cityview reporter with
Tammy Pearson, Iowa Living Magazine's editor.
Good morning to you, Tammy.
Good morning.
You know what I just noticed? I say welcome back to the 14th episode, but this is the first time of the 14th episode.
Yeah. Welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast. This
happy
is
14th.
That's happy 14th.
Our first 14th, so it's worth celebrating.
It is, and it will be forever and always. Well, we've got plenty to talk to you guys about today. First of all, the new Cityview is out. Been delivered yesterday and today. Super excited about that. This was a lot of fun.
Jam-packed with great stories and...
Yeah. I've had... my feature story was the Iowa Cubs season preview. I talked to Randy Wehofer, who is the Cubs assistant general manager. We sat down, talked about some of the guys that are coming up through the ranks, some of the guys that might be with Chicago that might come down, some of the things they do promotionally, how they run the team, what his role is, and that was a lot of fun. I also spoke to Ken Belzer, who works with the Des Moines Lapidary Society, and works with geodes and stones and rocks, and he gave me a geode.
He did?
He did. He gave me a geode as a gift.
And you didn't bring it in to show?
I guess I should have, shouldn't I?
Yes, I would love to see it. The pictures in the magazine were beautiful.
Mm-hmm. He said he's got thousands of them at home.
Wow.
Thousands. And that, you see them all the time. You'd trip over them if you didn't know any better.
Well, I'm going to have to learn how to identify them from the outside.
You know what he said?
What?
You just pick them up. You can tell by the weight.
Oh.
Because, like a normal rock would be rock.
Yes.
And these are not necessarily hollow, but, they've got a little bit give to them.
Yeah,
That's what he told me. He said, you just pick them up, you feel them in your hand, and you just you have to guess, but you just go from there. He says Cyote has tons, and he said you can't walk down there without tripping over them.
Wow.
So that was a lot of fun.
Road trip.
Cityview podcast road trip. We're going to go to Cyote and find geodes.
There you go.
The neighbor story, Cityview, or Civic Skinny, every story in there has just been a blast to read. I think this was a great addition. They're all great additions, but I loved this one.
Pick it up at your local news stand.
That's right. Over 800 convenient locations.
Wow. What's in the news?
Well, I'll tell you about what's in the news, Tammy. There's a solar eclipse coming. Not this weekend, maybe. When's the 8th? Is that Monday?
Yes, Monday.
So not the weekend like I put on the sheet like a silly fool I am. But it's coming up. It's going to be on Monday. My parents are leaving to go see it. They're probably going to that belt that strips or goes across the south and maybe technically the Midwest and then up through east. They're going somewhere up there.
Where you can see the total eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
But we can get a little glimpse of a partial eclipse here, right?
I'll be doing that on Monday. I'm stepping out of the office
yes.
and looking at it. The closest spot to witness it is a 7-hour drive away in Carbondale, Illinois. And Tammy, you're gonna have to hit this one for me.
Oh goodness, Cape Girardeau.
Girardeau?
I don't know. I don't recognize that in Missouri, but I don't recognize that city name. I'm sorry for my pronunciation.
Sorry for the good people of Cape Girardeau.
Oh.
That sounds pretty good.
That does.
Let's
go with it.
Let's go with that one. I remember, so the last one that was around was in 2017. Do you remember that one at all?
I do not.
No?
I don't.
Oh, I remember specifically because I was at a work training when I still worked at Metro Kids, And we had like pretty much the entire company into like this, meeting area and doing a big training that lasted all day. And everybody knew the eclipse was happening that day around, it was going to happen while we were at the training. And so everybody was kind of like trying to make an excuse to get their way outside because they wanted to see it at a certain time. And the speaker knew this and kept trying to get everyone to sit back down. And eventually and we're working with a bunch of people who work in like after school childcare. So there's funny personalities, and someone just gets up and they just went, "I'm going outside to see the eclipse. If anyone would like to join me, I'm going now."
Oh.
The whole room stood up and just walked right out.
And the speaker,
which was like one of our bosses was the speaker, but she was like, "Just come back in 10 minutes. Be right back." I remember
the
that.
speaker should have acknowledged, say, "Okay, listen, sit down. We will leave for 5 minutes at such time."
Yeah. I always remember that. I thought that was so funny. I didn't get any pictures, but I'll have another chance on Monday.
That's right.
Next up, 46 years after a Missouri hunter found a body in the Mississippi River, the victim has been identified as a 15-year-old girl from Iowa, Helen Renee Grooms, who disappeared from Ottumwa in 1978.
On the night of her birthday. Oh, sad story.
It was the night of her birthday? I did not read that.
Sad story.
One of those cold cases.
But finally some resolution for the family.
That is nice. That is very nice. I know Shane told me about it, but there's tons of Iowa cold cases that have just gone unsolved, and that could always make an interesting story. Just kind of diving into those, seeing what's out there.
And solved with DNA.
Yeah.
Which has solved many of the cold cases from the days when we didn't have such technology.
Right. Well, that's good. That's good for that family. Interesting, yes. More fun news.
Shared in the Daily Umbrella.
That's right. And even more fun news, Red Rooster Records is closing after nearly 20 years in business, and the owner is blaming it on rent hikes.
And where is that?
I don't know.
I'm sorry I asked.
I'm not sure, actually. And you know what? I can't even find it.
You keep talking. I'll
on
look
Euclid.
it up.
Right by the Slowdown. Oh, my gosh. That's over in Highland Park.
Okay.
Oh, I'm over there pretty often. I pop into the Slowdown here and there. Good coffee. Good people. Wow.
Good vibes.
Great vibes in Slowdown. That's a shame, though. There's a couple other record stores around, and it's kind of a shame because that medium is making a bit of a comeback with my generation. People like to buy the records and have that, physical, tangible piece of media in their hands.
I sure wish I'd kept my records. Darn.
What'd you do with them?
I don't really remember where they ended up. But I really regret not holding on to them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well. What's happening in sports?
Oh, I'll tell you what's happening in sports, Tammy. Caitlin Clark in Iowa advanced to the Final Four over Iowa. That was a couple of nights ago.
Over who?
Over LSU.
Yes.
And shortly after that, Caitlin Clark repeated as Naismith Player of the Year. One of few women to win it back-to-back, win it multiple times. Very impressive. They will play UConn in the Final Four and most likely face South Carolina in the final. If they make it, if they advance. I think South Carolina probably wins. They've got a very, very good team. They'll have to beat UConn, though.
And when is that game?
I don't know. I think it's Friday. I think it might be tomorrow. But I'll stall them, Tammy.
Continue with the sports news while I check.
More basketball news. 3 out of 4 of Iowa State's recruiting class from last year has entered the transfer portal. The only one that remains is Milan Momcilovic, who had a big impact on the team, but Omaha, Bellew, Caden Fish, and there was one more name I cannot remember. I'm doing really poorly. You got me too early, Tammy. You got me recording way too early. But
yes,
they had
I know.
it was a top 10 recruiting class, and now 3 of them are in the transfer portal. And Omaha was a 5-star recruit and from Iowa, and he's going to transfer away. He didn't get a lot of playing time, but it's just more the effect that the transfer portal is having on college basketball.
Well, let me tell you that Iowa women will face UConn on Friday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Okay.
What would that be here?
8:30.
8:30.
Yeah.
Yes. You can watch it on ESPN. Can I answer any more questions that I ask you?
Okay.
Okay. Go on. What's next?
The iCubs, focus of our cover story this month in Cityview, currently sit at 2-3, and they play tonight against the Mud Hens. Go baseball. Apparently, opening day was miserable with the weather.
The weather.
Yeah.
These earlier season games, but hey, it's still a good time. Bring a blanket. You'll be fine.
Bring a blanket. You will be fine. And yeah, looking through. What was I gonna say? I don't know. The thought completely left me, Tammy. I don't have a Celsius. I haven't had anything to eat.
You're in bad shape.
I'm in terrible shape. I'm an absolute mess.
Well, you know what? Let's talk about entertainment.
Let's talk about entertainment. Even more terrible, sad news. Malo is closing its doors later this month. I did not really see why in the articles that I found about them closing, but it's a pretty popular restaurant, pretty well-enjoyed restaurant that's going to be closing down. And apparently more and more to come. It's a Latin American restaurant, Malo, located downtown.
I've always heard good things about it. It's too bad it's closing.
Right, I'm going to have to get my fix in.
But for every one that closes, another one opens.
That
something,
is
right?
True. Tammy, you're on fire this morning.
What have we got coming new?
Wat Dak Korean Fried Chicken opened last week, a Korean fried chicken spot in Waukee. One of my friends posted some of their food on social media earlier this week, and it looks amazing. Have you ever had Korean fried chicken, Tammy?
No. How is it different from...
I don't know exactly how it's different.
Oh, Cody. But it's good, you say, right?
It's really good.
Is it good as grandma's?
It's not as good as grandma's. Nothing is as good as grandma's. I think it's in the breading and probably in the batter, just maybe seasoned a little bit different. I think the breading that they use is a little bit lighter than I think they use more of like a cornflake type breading.
Well, you are on the right track there.
I'm on the right track.
Korean fried chicken is coated in a sweet and spicy sauce after being deep fried, but it's not typically coated in breading or batter as American fried chicken is. It sounds good.
It does sound good. I mean, I've had it before. There's a good shop in the Mall of America that has Korean fried chicken that I try to get whenever I'm up there. But it looks great. It looks fantastic. Shame about Malo. Here's to Wat Dak. Gotta get my life together, Tammy. I'm all over the place. More entertainment news. This one I've got plenty of information on. I've even got a fun fact for you. Cowboy Carter, Beyonce's new album, is breaking records. Her new country album she recently released, it became Spotify's most streamed album in a single day. It's the only country album to do so this year.
Well, anything from Beyonce would, of course, top the charts, wouldn't it?
Right. It's going to be a smash. It's going to be a hit. It's going to be fantastic. I think she teased it during the Super Bowl. I think with an Instagram post. She posted herself in like a cowboy getup. Apparently it's great. I haven't listened to it yet, but I know Amanda loves it. I know my friend Marco loves it. I mean, it's Beyonce.
Can't go wrong.
You can't go wrong with Beyonce. She hasn't done anything bad except for marry Jay-Z. But everything else has been great. Everything else has been amazing.
Oh, well, she's not the first to have made a marriage mistake.
No, she's not. Well, next up, Tammy, and if you would like to join me in opening up a Google map of the city of Des Moines, I had an interesting question I wanted to pose to you.
Oh, no.
I want to know what separates each side of Des Moines, north, east, south, and west, because my friends got into this discussion the other day because we're all from Des Moines. We all live in Des Moines, or we all lived in Des Moines for a long time, extended amounts of time, and we're all from the south side. You know, they were in the greater south side, I think, quote unquote. They're more the around the Brody Middle School and that kind of area, kind of closer to Easter Lake. But then we were arguing about, well, what's the west side of Des Moines? And one of my friends said, well, there's a West Des Moines. And we said, well, that's a different city, and part of it's in a different county. So, I mean, that's not the west side of Des Moines. Something has to separate it. And then one of them said, Ingersoll is where West Des Moines starts. And I go, that doesn't make any sense, because I consider Ingersoll downtown, like where Noah starts is what he was saying. Noah's Ark restaurant. And then where does the east side start? Where does the north side start? What do you think? What's your take?
Well, I just don't know. I don't even know when I'm driving from one city to another in this area. I'm in Clive? Okay.
Well,
Urbandale?
who's
I don't
to say
know,
Clyde even exists, Tammy?
I think you would determine it by asking the residents. Are you a north sider, west sider?
Yeah.
And I think that they will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Formal boundaries just don't mean anything.
That's true. That's true.
It's where you feel your heart is at.
Yeah, I don't think you can really pinpoint it down to, like, once you cross a street, now you're in the west side, or now you're in the east side, or you know what I mean? I think how it was best described is the Drake neighborhood, Beaverdale, Merle Hay, that's all the west side of Des Moines, I would say.
Okay.
And north of Grand, even though it says north, I'd consider that the west side. And then Valley Junction, I would consider part of West Des Moines, I think. I think that's far enough out there that's West Des Moines and no longer the west side of Des Moines.
You know, I can't remember. We did a story about the neighborhoods of Des Moines,
Mm-hmm.
and there are many neighborhoods, and you've just mentioned several. So I think people identify more with their neighborhood than they do, I'm on a certain side of the city. They get even more localized with their affinities, don't you think?
I think I'd agree with that. I'm in at least where I grew up at, I'm in a little bit, I wouldn't say that. So, I mean, what this, what Google Maps is telling me is that I would technically have grown up in South Park, but I would always just say I lived on the south side. I was a little bit east a bit. But yeah, I think that's really true. Someone would say I live in Highland Park. I live in the Drake area. I live in Beaverdale. I think that's a lot more accurate of what someone would say. I live by the fairgrounds. If you lived on the east side, I live by the fairgrounds because that's east.
Perhaps you Southsiders are just more...
we're connected.
Yeah.
We're locked in, us Southsiders.
Great pride from that area.
Oh, you have to. It's the best one.
Oh.
No bias, of course.
Oh, okay.
But it is the best one. The airport.
I believe that Best of Des Moines would say that Beaverdale.
I mean, Beaverdale's nice.
It is.
It's great. It's got a lot of great stuff. My friend just moved to Beaverdale recently.
I like the historic neighborhoods.
I do as well. I think if I had to give you a pinpoint, I would say once you pass Gray's Lake, you're on the south side. Once you pass Gray's Lake, you're on the south side. I think once you're in the Drake neighborhood, in that area, kind of north of Grand, you're on the west side. Once you go over 235, I think you're on the north side, so that's kind of where the botanical garden is. I would call that the north side, and then I think anywhere past the Capitol East, I would call that the east side of Des Moines.
You are the official boundary maker of Des Moines.
I'm
Good
him.
job.
That's me. He is him, and I am him.
It does not come with any pay.
No, it doesn't. Someone should. I just fixed every city problem you've ever had.
I need a tour of the South Side,
Oh, I could give you a tour of the South Side, Tammy.
especially the eateries, okay?
Oh, I can do. That
All
I can
right.
definitely do. But yeah, I just wanted to see. I think I agree with that. That's not something that we brought up. People would more, if you just ask someone, they would tell you. I think it's a little bit too hard to just pinpoint it. This is the east side. This is the north side. If you ask someone, I'm on the north side, or they would say, I live in the Union Park neighborhood. I live in such and such. I live by the fairgrounds. That's a good take, Tammy.
In many smaller communities, you have one side of the railroad tracks and the other side of the railroad tracks. It's true.
That is true.
That's where the town is divided.
That's a good point. That is a good point. All right, well, I'm glad I got your take on that. That's a good. I'm going to bring that back to them and see what they say.
Good.
And
Well, I'm eager to hear their response.
and I'll get a good list of South Side eateries for you. Maybe that's something we can focus on in the entertainment section. Each week will be a different section of Des Moines' best restaurants. That's a good call. I'm going to write that down. Nobody steal that. Coming up, things you can do, not necessarily this weekend. I decided to skip over that with the eclipse coming up. I think if you want to go see the eclipse, we got a couple of good spots that you can go to. Drake and the Science Center are hosting a viewing party starting at noon at the Drake Municipal Observatory for free. That'll be a great time. Dallas County Conservation will have a viewing party at Hanging Rock Park in Redfield. And the Iowa Arboretum and Gardens viewing party at the Iowa Arboretum and Gardens in Madrid. They'll all have free viewing parties. Just pop up or just step outside.
I think that you would probably call it an arboretum.
Arboretum?
Yes.
Not Arboretum?
No. Now, I don't want
Arboretum?
to. I'm really not trying to embarrass you.
No,
I
I
just
know.
want our listeners to know what you're talking about.
Are you sure?
Yes. Go to the arboretum.
The Arboretum?
Trust me.
Oh, you're You're right. You're right.
Oh, I think we better just wrap it up today,
No.
Cody. You go get your Celsius and
No one told
start
me
the
that.
day over.
No one told me that. Well,
You should ask me these things prior to. Wrap it up, Cody.
okay. All right. Well, with that, we're going to leave you. We want to say thank you for listening to the Big Green Umbrella Media Podcast. This is episode 14. We want to say thank you from everyone at Big Green Umbrella Media. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. You can read the new Cityview stories at www.dmcityview.com and subscribe to the Daily Umbrella at www.thedailyumbrella.com/subscribe. If you have a story suggestion or would like to make a comment, you can send those to editor@dmcityview.com. Thank you and goodbye.